I thought every dish she cooked for me meant something. I believed she was practicing to feed us in our future home, but I was the only one eating leftovers. The real meals? They were for someone else. And I was footing the bill for her entire dream. I'm sitting at this wobbly plastic table in her cramped Tagum City apartment, watching Clorinda plate the adobo like she's Gordon Ramsay. The candle between us flickers against the humid night air streaming through her open window. She sets the bowl down with both hands, ceremonial-like, then kisses my cheek. "Try it, Neville," she whispers. "I made it special for you." I take a bite, and Christ, it's perfect. The pork falls apart on my tongue. The sauce has that deep, smoky sweetness that only comes from patience. I close my eyes and let out this ridiculous groan of appreciation. This is incredible love. Where did you learn to cook like this? She sits across from me, chin resting on her palms, watching me eat with this dreamy expression. My Lola taught me basics, but I dream bigger. I want to open small restaurants someday. Nothing fancy, just good food, honest prices. Something in my chest swells up. Here's this beautiful 30-something Filipina talking about dreams while feeding me like a king. I haven't felt this useful in years. Not since Margaret passed. A restaurant? That's brilliant. You've got the talent for it. Her eyes light up. You really think so? Most people here, they say I'm too ambitious. But food brings people together. No, makes them happy. I reach across and squeeze her hand. Clorinda, any man would be lucky to have you cooking for him every day. She turns my hand over in hers, tracing the lines on my palm. Maybe someday I cook for you every day. In our house, with proper kitchen. I practice new recipes. You tell me what you think. Our house. The words hit me like warm rain after a drought. I'm 70 years old, retired in a foreign country where I barely speak the language, and this gorgeous woman is talking about our future like it's already written in stone. I'd like that very much, I tell her. She stands and walks to the tiny 2-burner stove, her movements graceful despite the cramped space. The whole apartment smells like garlic and bay leaves and something floral, her shampoo, maybe. She starts ladling rice into a bowl. You know what I love most about cooking? She asks, not turning around. What's that? Is like love. You put in time, attention, best ingredients you can find, and when person tastes it, they know. They feel how much you care. I watch her silhouette against the kitchen light and think about Margaret's last months, when she could barely keep toast down. How empty our kitchen felt after she was gone. How I've been living on microwave meals and takeaway for 3 years now. This is the best meal I've had in a long time, I say, meaning every word. She brings me the rice and sits back down. Neville? Yeah? Promise me something. When I get scared about my dream, because sometimes I do get scared, you remind me that I can do it. That my food is good enough. The candlelight catches her face just right, and I see something vulnerable there. Something that needs protecting. I promise, love. Your food isn't just good enough, it's extraordinary. She smiles, and for the first time in years, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. 6 months earlier, I was scrolling through the Davao Expat Connection forum at 2 in the morning, couldn't sleep again. Posted a photo of some pathetic fried rice I'd attempted, captioned something like retirement cooking disasters, any locals want to teach an old Brit how to use proper seasoning. 3 comments down, Clorinda, cooks 23, looks like you need Filipino teacher. I love cooking for people who appreciate good food. I clicked her profile. 23 photos of immaculate dishes, sisig that looked restaurant quality, pancit that belonged in magazines. Her bio said future chef, current dreamer, Tagum City. I messaged her that night. Your food photos are incredible. Any chance you'd be willing to give lessons to a hopeless British pensioner? She replied within minutes. Better idea, I teach you over Hello tomorrow. Sweet Street Cafe, 2 p.m. I showed up 30 minutes early, nervous as a teenager on his first date. When she walked in, I nearly choked on my coffee. Photos hadn't done her justice. She moved with this quiet confidence, scanning the room until she spotted me in the corner booth. Neville? She slid across from me, extending a manicured hand. I'm Clorinda. You look exactly like your profile photo. Most people say I look older in person. Most people don't notice the kind eyes. Christ, she was smooth. We ordered Halo, and she started talking about food like other people talk about religion. How her grandmother taught her to cook by taste, not recipes. How she'd been working as a secretary but dreamed of culinary school. Problem is, she said, stirring the shaved ice, good training costs money I don't have. But I practice every day, cook for neighbors, get feedback, try new things. That's admirable, following your passion despite the obstacles. She looked at me directly then. You believe in supporting dreams, Neville? Something in her tone made me pause. I suppose I do. Within reason. She laughed, this musical sound that made me want to make her laugh again. Good. Because I need someone who understands what it means to build something from nothing. 1 week later, she showed up at my apartment with a bag of groceries and a shy smile. Surprise. I thought maybe I cook for you today. Show you proper adobo technique. I stood there in my doorway, still in yesterday's clothes, probably smelling like loneliness and instant coffee. You don't have to, I want to. It's part of my practice, and you get good meal. Win-win, no? She pushed past me into my kitchen, started unpacking. Ingredients like she owned the place. Watching her work was mesmerizing. Every movement had purpose. She'd taste, adjust, taste again. Talk me through each step. See how I brown the pork first? Builds flavor foundation. Most people, they just throw everything in pot and hope for best. 2 weeks in, she was coming over daily. My kitchen transformed from this sterile space where I reheated sad meals into something alive. She'd arrive with shopping bags, kiss my cheek in greeting, and start creating magic. Neville, she said one evening, washing dishes, while I sat at my kitchen table feeling useless and grateful. Can I ask you something personal? Of course. She dried her hands on a towel, turned to face me. You really believe I could run my own place someday? Not just talking, really believe it? Absolutely. Your food is better than half the restaurants I've eaten in. Then maybe you help me take next step. What kind of help? She sat down across from me, reached for my hands. I need better equipment to practice properly. Good knives, proper pans. And I want to take weekend cooking class at Culinary Center in Davao City. My pension was comfortable, not generous. But sitting there with this beautiful woman talking about our future because that's how it felt, our future, I couldn't see a reason to say no. How much are we talking about? She squeezed my hands. Maybe 20,000 pesos? I know, is a lot. It's fine. Consider it an investment in your dream. Her face lit up. Really? Neville, you're the most generous man I've ever met. She came around the table and hugged me from behind, her arms around my shoulders, her cheek pressed to mine. I promise I pay you back when restaurant opens. You'll be my first investor, my most important one. Investor, the word made me feel important, vital. Like I wasn't just some lonely old man she cooked for out of pity. Just promise me one thing, I said. Anything. When you're famous, don't forget the British pensioner who believed in you first. She kissed the top of my head. Never. You're going to be so proud of me, Neville. So proud of us. 3 weeks after the equipment purchase, Clorinda started leaving shopping lists on my kitchen counter. Not asking, just leaving them there with little notes attached. For tonight's special menu, or practice ingredients for weekend class. The list got longer, more expensive, premium soy sauce instead of regular. Imported mushrooms. Wagyu beef for technique practice. Clorinda, this list is 8,000 pesos. For one meal. She was at my stove, searing something that smelled incredible. Not one meal, whole week of practice. I make multiple versions, test different techniques. You eat best results. Made sense, I supposed. I was getting restaurant quality food every night, and watching her work was worth the cost of admission. We started making weekend trips to the Davao City markets. She'd hold my arm as we walked between vendors, and every seller would greet her by name. Clorinda, you brought your boyfriend today. He's not boyfriend, she'd correct with a smile. He's my fiancé. The word made my chest tight in the best way. She'd never asked, I'd never proposed, but somewhere along the way it had become truth between us. At the kitchen supply store, she moved like a woman on a mission. Professional-grade stockpots, imported Japanese knives, specialized plating tools I couldn't pronounce. Is this all necessary? She held up a mandolin slicer, turning it in the light. You want me to cook like amateur or like chef? Chef, obviously. Then I need proper tools. You wouldn't ask carpenter to build house with rusty hammer. The metaphor made sense. Everything she said made sense. She had this way of explaining things that made my concerns seem small and short-sighted. At the checkout, the total was 35,000 pesos. I felt my pension account wince, but Clarinda squeezed my hand. This is it, Neville. After this, I have everything I need for serious practice. No more big purchases. She signed the receipt with a flourish, then turned to the cashier. He's my business partner. We're opening restaurant together soon. Business partner. Another new title I hadn't expected but somehow accepted. The next week she asked about ingredient budget expansion. What do you mean? I want to test high-end menu items. See if I can make expensive dishes that people will pay premium for. But I need quality ingredients to practice with. She showed me her notebook, pages filled with recipe ideas and cost breakdowns. Her handwriting was neat, precise, professional. You've really thought this through. Is my future, Neville, our future. I want to do it right. Our future. There it was again. That phrase that made everything else seem reasonable. All right, how much do you need? Maybe 15,000 pesos per week? For 4 weeks? 60,000 pesos. More than I'd spent on anything except rent since moving to the Philippines. But looking at her notebook, seeing the care she'd put into planning, how could I say no? You'll pay me back when the restaurant opens? She closed the notebook, reached across to cup my face in her hands. Neville, when my restaurant is successful, you'll be part of it. Official partner. Your name on the sign if you want. My name on a restaurant sign. At 70 years old, I'd finally be part of something that mattered. All right. But I want receipts for everything. She kissed my forehead. Of course, complete transparency. That's what partners do. That night, she cooked what she called a preview menu, 5 courses that would have cost £200 in London. Each bite was perfect, and I told her so between courses. Just wait, she said, clearing away the dessert plates. In 6 months, food critics will be writing about this. I believed her. Sitting there with a belly full of incredible food and a head full of dreams, I believed every word. I started noticing the Tupperware containers stacked in Clarinda's refrigerator during my 3rd month of partnership. Dozens of them, labeled with dates and dish names in her precise handwriting. More food than 2 people could eat in a week. What's all this for? I asked, opening one container to find pristine lumpia Shanghai that looked untouched. Practice portions, she said, not looking up from her phone. I make extra to test presentation, see how food holds up over time, is important for future catering business. Catering business. Another expansion I hadn't heard about. You're thinking about catering too? Restaurant first, then maybe catering. Good chefs diversify income streams. Made sense. Everything always made sense when she explained it. But the portions kept multiplying. I'd find her at midnight, carefully packing containers, writing detailed labels. When I asked who would eat all of it, she'd say testing phases or quality control. Then I started hearing voices outside her apartment window at night. Young voices, speaking rapid Tagalog punctuated by English words I could catch. Clarinda's food is better than Jollibee. Did you try the sisig? Incredible. She should charge more. This quality deserves premium price. I sat up in bed, listening. Were people buying her practice food? Was she already running some kind of business I didn't know about? The next morning, I asked her about it. Those voices last night, were those customers? She was at the stove, making what she called experimental pancit. Her shoulders tensed slightly. Just friends who help me get feedback. I give them food. They give honest opinions. Is normal for chef development. Free food. For now. Later, when I perfect recipes, I start charging. But right now is about learning, improving. She turned to face me, spatula in hand. Why? You think I should charge them now? Something in her tone warned me off the topic. No, you're right. Perfection first, profit later. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Exactly. You understand business. That afternoon, while she was at the market, I walked around her neighborhood, just exploring, I told myself. Getting to know the area where our restaurant might eventually be. 3 blocks from her apartment, I found a small food cart with Clay's Kitchen painted on the side in cheerful yellow letters. A teenage boy was serving what looked like Clarinda's sisig to a line of construction workers. Clay, Clarinda's nickname. I stood there watching, my stomach doing something uncomfortable. The boy worked efficiently, plating food with the same precision I'd watched Clarinda practice in her kitchen. The same movements, the same techniques. When I got back to the apartment, Clorinda was unpacking groceries, expensive groceries. How was your walk? Fine. Interesting neighborhood. She paused, a bottle of olive oil halfway to the counter. You didn't go far, did you? Some areas not safe for foreigners, just around the block. Saw a food cart, Clay's Kitchen. Familiar name. Her hand tightened on the olive oil bottle. Common nickname here. Many Clorindas use it. The food looked exactly like yours. She set the bottle down carefully, turned to face me with that bright smile that was starting to feel rehearsed. Well, good food is good food. Great minds think alike, no? She moved to me, put her arms around my waist. Besides, who cares about street cart when you have personal chef cooking just for you? I let her change the subject, but that night, lying in bed listening to more voices outside her window, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was missing something important. Something that might explain why my personal chef was cooking enough food to feed half of Tagum City. I couldn't sleep the night after seeing that food cart. Kept thinking about the way the boy plated the sisig, exact same technique Clorinda had been practicing in my kitchen. The same garnish placement, same portion size. At 3 a.m., I gave up on sleep and opened my laptop. Started with a simple search. Clay's Kitchen, Tagum City. First result was a blog post from 2 weeks ago. Jilly eats Mindanao with the headline, Hidden Gem Alert, Private Chef Clay serves Davao quality food in Tagum. My hands went cold. The post had photos. Professional photos of dishes I'd watched Clorinda prepare. The same butterfly cut bangus, the same perfectly plated kare. And at the bottom, a profile shot of a smiling woman in a chef's apron, Clorinda. Chef Clay has been quietly building a reputation among Tagum's food enthusiasts, the review read. Her private catering service, launched 3 months ago, delivers restaurant-quality meals to clients throughout the city. This reviewer sampled her 5-course tasting menu and can confirm this is fine dining hidden in a small city package. 3 months ago, right when she'd asked for the equipment money. I scrolled through more of Jilly Eats posts. Found another one from last week. Clay's Kitchen announces pop-up dinner series. Photos of Clorinda with local business owners, everyone holding wine glasses and looking successful. The post mentioned her innovative funding model and silent partner investment strategy. Silent partner. That was me. The silent part, anyway. I screenshot everything and closed the laptop. Sat there in the dark of my apartment, trying to process what I'd learned. She wasn't practicing for a restaurant, she was already running her own business. Had been for months. At 7 a.m., she knocked on my door with her usual grocery bags and morning kiss. Good morning, my investor. Ready for another cooking lesson? Clorinda, we need to talk. Something in my tone made her set the bags down carefully. What's wrong? I showed her the blog posts on my phone. Watched her face go through a series of micro-expressions, surprise, calculation, something that might have been guilt. Oh, you found Jilly Eats. You've been running a catering business. For months. Using the equipment and ingredients I paid for. She sat down across from me at my kitchen table, suddenly looking very young. Yes. But Neville, this is good news. It means the restaurant concept works. People love my food. Why didn't you tell me? I wanted to surprise you. Show you how successful we could be. Build proof of concept before involving you officially. We, us, our, always the right pronouns to keep me calm. But you involved me. My money funded this whole operation. She reached for my hands, and I'm grateful. You'll see returns, I promise. Once I formalize everything, register proper business, you'll be official partner. Equity stake, profit sharing, everything we discussed. We never discussed equity stakes. But we discussed partnership. This is what partnership means. She stood up, started pacing my small living room. Look, I know I should have told you sooner, but I was scared. What if it failed? What if I wasted your investment? I wanted to prove it worked first. The explanation sounded reasonable. Almost. How many clients do you have? 23 regular customers. Plus the pop-up dinners, those usually have 15 to 20 people. And you're charging them? Of course I'm charging them. Is a business, not charity. But you told me you were giving away food for feedback. She stopped pacing, looked at me directly. I was giving away food, to some people. Others pay. Is normal business development some free samples to build reputation, then convert to paying customers? I felt like I was trying to solve a puzzle with half the pieces missing. Everything she said made partial sense, but the whole picture remained unclear. Show me the books. What books? Business records, income, expenses. I want to see where my money went and what it's generating. Her face went blank. I don't have formal books yet, is all in my head, some notes in my phone. But I can write everything down for you. You don't have records of a business that's been running for 3 months? Neville, you're making this more complicated than it is. Small business here, we start informal, get established, then formalize later, is normal. She came back to the table, sat down, took my hands again. Are you proud of me? The question caught me off guard. What? Are you proud that your investment worked? That I built something successful? Looking at her earnest face, her hands warm on mine, I wanted to say yes, wanted to feel proud instead of confused. I just wish you'd told me. I'm telling you now, and I'm asking, do you want to see the business? Meet some clients? I can show you everything. Part of me wanted to say yes, wanted to believe this was just a communication problem, not something worse. All right. Show me. She smiled, bright and genuine. Tomorrow night, pop-up dinner at the community center. You'll be my special guest. She kissed my cheek and started unpacking the groceries. Now, what do you want to learn to cook today? But I couldn't focus on cooking lessons. Couldn't stop thinking about that phrase from the blog. Silent partner investment strategy. How many other silent partners were there? I never made it to that pop-up dinner. The next morning, scrolling through Facebook over coffee, I saw a post that made my blood stop moving. Grand opening tonight. Clorinda's Kitchen, fine dining comes to Tagum City. The post had 43 likes and 12 comments. Photos of a storefront I'd never seen, with professional signage and fairy lights. Clorinda in a white chef's coat, arms crossed, looking confident and beautiful. No mention of a British partner, no mention of me at all. I called her immediately. Neville. Good morning, my love. What's wrong? You sound stressed. The Facebook post. Grand opening tonight. Silence. Then. Ah. You saw that. When were you planning to tell me? You'd opened an actual restaurant? Tonight. At the pop-up dinner I invited you to. Is not really grand opening, just soft launch for select guests. I wanted you to be there when I announced your partnership role. My partnership role. Always something just out of reach. Always about to be formalized. Where is this restaurant? Downtown Tagum. Small space, nothing fancy yet, but perfect for testing full-service concept. I'm coming over. Neville, no. Today is crazy busy. Opening night prep, staff briefings, supplier deliveries. Maybe tomorrow. I'm coming over now. I drove to her apartment, but she wasn't there. Spent an hour walking around Tagum's small downtown area until I found Clorinda's Kitchen tucked between a cell phone repair shop and a pharmacy. It was beautiful. Small but elegant, with real tablecloths and professional lighting. Through the window, I could see her inside, directing 3 staff members I'd never met. I walked to the door and tried to enter, but a young man in a polo shirt stopped me. Sorry, sir. We don't allow walk-ins today. Soft launch, invitation only. I'm Neville. I'm Clorinda's business partner. He looked confused, checked his phone. I don't have you on the list. Let me ask Clorinda. Through the window, I watched him approach her. Watched her glance toward the door, see me, and say something that made him return with an apologetic expression. She says she's very busy with preparations. Maybe you can come back tomorrow for regular opening? I stood there on the sidewalk, watching the woman I'd been funding for months manage a restaurant I'd never seen, with staff I'd never met, for an opening I hadn't been invited to. At 7 p.m., cars started arriving. Well-dressed couples, men in suits, women in cocktail dresses. Local business owners I recognized from the Jilly Eats blog photos. I sat in my car across the street, watching through the restaurant window. Clorinda moved between tables like a natural hostess, posing for photos, shaking hands, accepting congratulations. She never looked toward the street, never looked for me. At 9 p.m., I saw her at the front window, giving what looked like a speech to the gathered crowd. Everyone raised their glasses in a toast. I started my car and drove home. My phone stayed silent all night. The next morning, I found the Facebook album, Clorinda's Kitchen, opening night success. 47 photos of the evening I'd watched from a parking lot. In photo 32, I spotted something that made me sick. A small plaque on the wall behind the main table, dedicated to all who believed in this dream. All who believed. Not the man who paid for it. I called her at noon. Neville, how are you? Last night was incredible. I can't wait to tell you everything. I was there. What? I was outside. Watched through the window while your staff turned me away. Long silence. Then, oh God. Neville, I'm so sorry. There was miscommunication with staff. I told them only invited guests, and somehow you weren't on the list. It was mistake. Whose list? What do you mean? Who made the list of invited guests? Who decided I shouldn't be there for the opening of the restaurant I funded? I made the list. But I thought you knew you were invited from our conversation yesterday. I assumed. You assumed wrong. Another silence. Are you angry with me? Such a simple question. Was I angry? Or was I something else entirely? Something that felt more like grief than rage. I'm tired, Clorinda. I'm 70 years old, and I'm tired. Come to the restaurant today. Please. Let me show you everything properly. Explain the business plan, the partnership structure. Make this right. I looked around my empty apartment, at the kitchen where she used to cook for me every night. Where I used to feel needed. No, I think I understand enough. Neville, don't do this. Don't throw away everything we've built over one miscommunication. We. Always we. But looking at those Facebook photos, I couldn't see any evidence that we had built anything at all. I spent the next week adding it all up. Every receipt, every bank transfer, every small loan that was never repaid. Spread everything across my kitchen table like evidence at a crime scene. The equipment purchases, $87,000. Weekly ingredient budgets, $240,000 over 4 months. The culinary classes in Davao, $45,000. Kitchen rental fees for practice sessions, $150,000. Professional photography for her portfolio, $25,000. Social media advertising budget, $35,000. Restaurant setup costs, $180,000. Staff uniforms and training, $38,000. Grand total, $800,000. Nearly 30,000 pounds, more than Margaret's entire cancer treatment had cost. I sat there staring at the numbers, trying to understand how I'd let it happen. Each individual expense had seemed reasonable in isolation. A few thousand pesos here, a small investment there. Death by 1,000 cuts. Except the cuts were to my pension, and the death was of my dignity. My phone buzzed. Text from Clorinda. Missing you. Restaurant doing well but feels empty without my partner there to see it. Can we talk soon? Partner. The word tasted different now. I walked to my bedroom closet and pulled out the shoebox, where I kept Margaret's letters from her final months. Found what I was looking for in the third bundle. Her life insurance paperwork. $800,000 was exactly what I'd received after she died. I'd spent my dead wife's insurance money funding another woman's dream. The realization hit me like cold water. I sat on the edge of my bed, holding Margaret's handwriting, and finally understood what had happened. Clorinda hadn't stolen from me. I'd given her everything willingly, desperately, gratefully, because for 6 months, I'd felt like I mattered to someone, like I was building something instead of just waiting to die. I went back to the kitchen, to the pile of receipts, started organizing them, chronologically. And that's when I found the drawer. Clorinda had left some things at my apartment over the months. A spare phone charger, a few cooking utensils, a small wooden recipe box. I'd never opened the box, it seemed private, personal. Inside were my own letters to her. Every email I'd sent, printed out and filed by date, but each page had handwritten notes in the margins. Numbers in her precise script. First email, where I'd mentioned my pension amount, $45,000 month written in blue ink. Second email, where I'd talked about Margaret's life insurance, $800,000, investigate timeline. Email, where I'd mentioned feeling lonely, emotional vulnerability, high maintenance potential. Email where I'd described my simple lifestyle, low overhead, maximum disposable income. Every expression of affection, every moment of vulnerability, every financial detail I'd shared, all of it annotated like research data. At the bottom of the box, a small notebook with business development, written on the cover. I opened it with shaking hands. Page 1 had a timeline. Month 1, establish emotional connection, assess financial capacity. Month 2, introduce dream narrative, begin small financial requests. Month 3, Escalate investment scale, cement partner identity. Month 4 to 5. Deploy advanced funding strategies. Maintain exclusivity, illusion. Month 6. Launch extraction phase. Minimize donor contact. Page 2 had a financial projection chart showing my monthly pension, estimated savings, an extraction timeline leading to what she'd labeled financial depletion point. She'd calculated exactly how much she could take from me and over what period. I closed the notebook and sat there in my kitchen, surrounded by receipts and evidence of my own stupidity. Outside, I could hear the normal sounds of life continuing: traffic, children playing, vendors calling out their wares. Everything normal except me. I picked up my phone and typed, "Was any of it real?" Sent it to Clorinda's number and waited. Her reply came 2 hours later. "You helped me when no one else would. Thank you for believing in me." No apology, no explanation, no acknowledgement of what she'd done or what I'd lost. Just thanks for believing in her. I deleted her number and started packing up the receipts. Evidence of the most expensive lesson I'd ever learned about the difference between love and business. That text message sat on my phone for 3 days like a stone in my chest. Thank you for believing in me. Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "Let me explain." Just gratitude for my useful stupidity. I kept typing responses and deleting them. Paragraphs of hurt and confusion and betrayal, all erased before sending. What was the point? She'd gotten what she needed from me. Now she was thanking me for my service and moving on. But I couldn't move on. Not yet. On Thursday morning, I drove past Clorinda's kitchen. The lunch crowd was substantial business people in suits, groups of office workers, local families, treating themselves to something special. Through the window, I could see her taking orders, all smiles and professional grace. She looked happy, successful, complete. I parked and sat watching for an hour, trying to understand what I was feeling. Not anger anymore that had burned out somewhere between finding her business notes and calculating my losses. Not sadness exactly. Something closer to emptiness. That evening, I called my sister in Liverpool. First time in months. "Neville, what a surprise. How's paradise treating you?" "Expensive." She laughed. "Isn't it always? But surely the cost of living there is cheaper than London?" Different kinds of costs. Something in my tone must have alerted her. "Everything all right?" I found myself telling her everything. The whole stupid story, start to finish. Margaret's insurance money, the cooking lessons, the equipment purchases, the restaurant I'd funded but been excluded from. All of it. Christ, Neville. 800,000 pesos. That's 30,000 pounds, give or take. Jesus, I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry, be impressed. At 70 years old, I managed to get taken by a 30-something Filipina with a business plan. Not every pensioner can claim that distinction. Have you reported it to anyone? The embassy? Local police? Reported what? That I voluntarily gave money to a woman I was sleeping with? That I funded her business thinking I was her partner when we never signed any contracts? That I was gullible enough to believe someone like her could actually love someone like me? Neville, I wasn't robbed, Sarah, I was recruited. There's a difference. After I hung up, I poured myself 3 fingers of brandy and sat on my balcony overlooking Davao's skyline. City lights stretched toward the water, millions of people living their lives, pursuing their dreams, taking their chances, some winning, some losing, most just getting by. I pulled out my phone and typed one final message to Clorinda. Was any of it real? The response came faster than I expected. You helped me when no one else would. Thank you for believing in me. I read it 3 times, looking for something between the lines. Some hint of regret or acknowledgement or human feeling. But there was nothing there except efficiency. She'd closed the transaction with professional courtesy and moved on. I finished my brandy and went inside. Deleted her contact information, blocked her number, unfollowed her business pages. Not out of anger, I was past anger. Out of necessity. Some wounds only heal when you stop picking at them. 6 months later, I'm living in a smaller apartment in a quieter neighborhood. 1 bedroom instead of 2, no balcony, but the rent is half what I was paying before. Had to downsize after burning through most of my savings on someone else's future. My kitchen is basic now. 2-burner stove, small refrigerator, minimal counter space. No professional equipment, no imported. Ingredients, no one to cook for except myself. Tonight I'm making what I've learned to make well. Soft-boiled eggs over instant noodles. Not the gourmet ramen you see in magazines, the cheap stuff from 7-Eleven that costs 12 pesos and tastes like salt and regret. But I've figured out how to make it better. A splash of soy sauce, some chopped green onions if I'm feeling fancy, an egg cracked right into the boiling water so the white sets creamy around the noodles. It's not much, but it's mine. No one else's dream hiding inside it. I eat standing at my small counter, looking out the window at the narrow street below. Kids playing basketball in the fading light, their mothers calling them inside for dinner. Normal life continuing its normal rhythm. My phone buzzes. Email notification. For a split second, my heart does something stupid, hopes it might be her, maybe with an explanation or apology or some acknowledgement of what happened between us. But it's just spam. Cryptocurrency investment opportunity. Another person wanting to help me get rich quick. I delete it and finish my noodles. Been keeping a journal lately. Nothing profound, just daily thoughts. Helps me process what happened without obsessing over it. Today's entry is short. Cooked for myself tonight. Forgot how quiet kitchens can be when you're the only one eating. Yesterday I wrote, saw a couple at the market, him carrying her groceries, her explaining which vegetables to buy. Looked happy, remembered when I thought that was me. Last week, 3 months since I've heard her voice. Still catch myself setting out 2 plates sometimes, but also, slept through the night without checking my phone. Small progress. And, talked to Mrs. Santos next door, about her grandchildren. She invited me for Sunday lunch. Maybe I'll go. The healing isn't linear. Some days I feel stupid and used and ashamed of how easily I was manipulated. Other days I feel grateful for 6 months of feeling needed and alive, even if it was all performance art. Most days, I feel 70 years old and tired and cautious about trusting anyone who seems too good to be true. But I'm not bitter. That surprises people when I tell the story. They expect me to be angry, to want revenge, to warn other expats about predatory locals. But I can't summon that energy. Clorinda didn't break into my house and steal my money. She offered me something I desperately wanted: purpose, partnership, love, and I paid for it gladly. The fact that it wasn't real doesn't change how real it felt at the time. I've been thinking about that a lot, the difference between being deceived and deceiving yourself. How much of what happened was her manipulation, and how much was my own desperate need to believe I mattered to someone? The truth is probably both. She saw a lonely old man with money and a need to feel useful. I saw a beautiful young woman with dreams and convinced myself those dreams included me. We both got something we wanted, just not what we thought we were getting. I finish my eggs and noodles, wash the single bowl and chopsticks I used. Tomorrow I'll cook for myself again, something simple, something honest. Maybe I'll try making that adobo recipe I learned watching her, see if I can recreate the taste without all the emotional seasoning. My phone stays silent. No shopping lists, no requests for investment, no promises about our future, just quiet. It's not the life I thought I was building 6 months ago, but it's the life I can afford, financially and emotionally, and maybe that's enough. I thought I was funding a future. Turns out, I was paying tuition for a dream I didn't belong in. Expensive education, but I learned something valuable: the difference between being needed and being used. Between love that costs something and love that costs everything. At 70 years old, I finally understand that real affection doesn't come with shopping lists and business plans. It doesn't require investment, portfolios, or partnership agreements. It just shows up, quietly, honestly, without asking for anything except your attention. Maybe someday I'll find that kind of simple, cheap love. Maybe I won't. But either way, I know what it costs now, and what it's worth. I turn off the lights, and head to bed. Tomorrow I'll cook for myself again. And the day after that, one honest meal at a time, until I remember who I was before I started paying for someone else to care about me. The kitchen goes quiet. Finally, blessedly quiet.